We're talking about love here. When it comes to love, an infant doesn't even know what love is. Mom or dad walks out of the room just momentarily, and sometimes an infant will freak out because it thinks that it's abandoned, that they'll never see mom or dad again. Well, even though you may be an adult by age, you can be an emotional infant. Adults who get stuck at this level of emotional maturity treat others as objects to meet their own needs. These adults give people the impression that it's very much my way or the highway. They can't empathize with other people because they're just focused on themselves, like Bruce at the beginning of that movie. They're too wrapped up in themselves to realize that other people are hurting. Other people have crosses to carry. Other people have had messed up things happen to them in life. And even though they can communicate with words, adults who are emotional infants don't use their words very often. And when they do, they typically don't use them well. So stage one, the emotional infant. Stage two would be the emotional child. Emotional child. Chronologically, a child is between age 1 and age 12. So let's just picture someone who's 8 years old. An 8-year-old is still quite dependent on mom and dad. They can communicate with words, but they don't always do it well either, right? Especially when it comes to anger. Your son, who's 8, might come in from playing with his friends, and instead of saying, I'm sad because my friends didn't pick me to be on their team for the street hockey game, they might just start throwing things, throwing a temper tantrum. They don't communicate anger very well. And while a child is certainly able to love another person, children don't understand the complexity of love. They certainly don't understand tough love, right? You send an 8-year-old to bed early because they're throwing a temper tantrum, and they're liable to say to you, "You don't love me," right? "You don't love me." When in fact you do, but you're doing what's best for them. They need this for their own health. Again, there is such a thing as an adult, a chronological adult, who's an emotional child. These adults still act out resentment through distracting and pouting and whining and clinging and lying and withholding and appeasing. Physically, they're grown up, but emotionally, they're still at that child level. They haven't matured to the point of being able to openly and honestly express their needs. So there's the emotional child. And the third stage is the emotional adolescent. Now look at a picture of an adolescent here, someone who's 15. Adolescents generally rebel against parental authority. They define themselves in reaction to others. This is part of the whole differentiation thing. They fear being treated as a child, and they think, don't tell me what to do. Right? Any parent with an adolescent ever hear that from their teen? Don't raise your hand. Don't tell me what to do. Adolescents love you one day, or 1 minute, and they hate you the next. Everything's extremes. You're hot, then you're cold. You're yes, then you're no. You're in, then you're out. You're up, then you're down. Many physical adults are emotional adolescents. They can't give without feeling resentment or feeling controlled. If I do something for you, then you owe me, right? I'll do this errand for mom or dad, but then you owe me an allowance or a later bedtime or something else, a treat or whatever, because I'm just keeping score. Adolescents keep score. Their capacity for mutual concern is still underdeveloped. It's basically, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? Emotional adolescents are defensive, and they feel threatened by criticism. So we got the adult who's an emotional adolescent. And then finally, stage 4 is the emotional adult. I was really hoping they'd put a picture of me up there. This is the place, this is going to contradict the picture, but this is the place we strive for in life. Get rid of the bill, whatever. Anyway, we want to be emotionally and physically mature. We want to be emotional and physical adults. And here are some characteristics of emotional adulthood. I'll give you 6. Number 1, An emotional adult is able to ask for what they need, what they want, what they prefer. They can do it clearly and directly and yet respectfully and honestly. What the Bible says in Ephesians 4, speaking the truth in love. Emotional adults speak truth in love. Number 2, with an emotional adult, it's not win or lose. I win, you lose. You win, I lose. Emotional adults, they're looking for a win-win. The relationship is what matters. They want the relationship to win. Number 3, emotional adults listen with empathy. They consider the world, they consider the situation from the shoes, the perspective of the other. Number 4, an emotional adult can respect another person without having to change them. Number 5, they're able to resolve conflict and negotiate sensitive situations. Number 6, emotional adults can give other people and themselves room to make mistakes. They don't have to be perfect all the time. That's an emotional adult. And the Bible provides a great picture of what an emotional adult looks like in 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Now, this isn't in my notes, but I want to share this anyway. Young girls, when you think of the kind of woman that you want to be, right, for the rest of your life, when you think of the kind of woman you want to be, I'm sure that most of you want to be married someday. When you think of the kind of woman that you want to be, here are 2 gold nuggets for you. Use this as your chart for what kind of adult you want to be. Second nugget, young girls, use this for a chart for the kind of guy you're going to look for. All right? Same goes for men. Use this as your guide for maturity into emotional adulthood, and use it when you're looking for a woman, and it will save you broken relationship after broken relationship, and finger pointing, and a lifetime of heartache. Emotional adulthood, emotional adult love is patient. It is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. Young women, look for men who are not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Young men, look for women who don't keep a record of your wrongs. Emotional adulthood, with regard to love, does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. Young women, if you find a man who thinks things that are evil are exciting, then you run from him, because you'll regret it if you don't. It rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Emotional, adult love never fails. That's the Bible on the kind of love that we want to cultivate as we grow into adults. Now look at this graph and ask yourself where you fit in. You've got 4 boxes there: emotional infant, emotional child, emotional teen, and emotional adult. Look at the characteristics and the traits and ask yourself, which one do you fit in? Now, if you're like me, you probably don't fit in clearly into any one box. I'm more of a mix with a couple. Some of you might feel, well, I've got some qualities from 3 or maybe even all 4 boxes. But find kind of where you're at right now. This is a personal exercise. You don't need to share this with me or anybody. Find where you're at right now and then ask yourself, where do I want to be? And then the key to all this is just being honest with yourself. If you're not honest with yourself, this is just a waste of your time. All right? And if we're being honest with ourselves, some of us have to identify ourselves as emotional infants. And that's not a judgment. In fact, most often when I meet people who are at the level of that first box on the top left, it really has little to do with them.